Second chances seem to be quite a rarity in Hollywood, but Hugh Jackman was given another opportunity at a solo Wolverine movie. So is this an improvement on the first one? This is my uneducated opinion on the movie The Wolverine. Spoiler warning, as this movie has again been out for over a decade, so you've been warned. X-Men Origins gives you that false hope of it being a good movie with its really flashy and impressive opening title sequence, but then you experience the rest of the story, to which I found as much pleasure in watching that as my motorcycle accident that I was in a few years ago. The Wolverine, however, not only has a very impactful introduction being set at the end of the Second World War and the atomic bomb being dropped on top of Nagasaki, but thankfully the vast majority of the movie is an incredible watch as well. After the rewatch, this does go through a lot of really interesting narratives, and I feel it's a little bit of an overlooked gem, but that's more so in the movie ending on a pretty sour note, but we will get into that. James Mangold was the director of this movie, and he does a really splendid job. He has such a vision for filmmaking, which goes along with his really impressive track record. Previously making the Academy Award winning Walk the Line, and after this movie he goes on to make Logan, Ford vs Ferrari, and Indiana Jones The Dial of Destiny, the latter which I have not seen yet, but I've heard is okay. Now let's get on to the cast, and we are finally here. We're finally witnessing Hugh Jackman in all of his glory. I think his performance in this is absolutely superb. We get a little bit more exposure to a side that we haven't seen Logan that much in, where he is living in the wild and having this mutual respect with other animals around him, and the last time I think we saw anything remotely like that was when he came across a wolf in X-Men 2. Seeing Hugh Jackman playing the part of this secluded outsider just quietly moving on with his life just never gets old. I mean, he does. Slowly. And painfully. And all alone. I really love how this movie goes into the exploration of the mortality of Wolverine, this seemingly unkillable being wrestling with the concept of death, and even going through the route of him initially losing his powers. It leads to Logan now experiencing pain which isn't just followed by quick relief, to also feeling exhaustion after helping remove a tree blocking a road. Now, even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the love story between Logan and Jean in the previous installments, I really like how they show the traumatic effects it has on Logan, with him having constant nightmares and even swearing a vow in her name. It just adds yet another dark experience he now has to endure for the rest of his life. I've forgotten how funny this movie was in a lot of cases, from Logan being sarcastic when interrogating that hunter at the beginning, having this fish out of water experience once he gets to Japan and getting cleaned up, and interrupting Noboru during his social gathering, let's just say. I apologize in advance if I get some of these names wrong, so please don't scrutinize me too much. I am trying my best. Yukio is played by Rila Fukushima. She has really good chemistry with Hugh Jackman, sharing a lot of fun scenes together and also delivering some really intense moments. Her character has the ability to see the future, and more specifically the moments when people die, and holy shit, her talking about seeing Logan's death is an absolute standout scene. I really like that her powers give her some sort of relatability within Logan. It must take some serious mental strength to cope with these extreme visions of people dying around her. Ken Yamamura and Haruhiko Yamanouchi play Yashida in the different time periods, and they both give very respectable performances. They both don't have a lot of screen time, but Yamamura is certainly one of the main factors in making the opening so memorable, conveying his utter horror as his whole world is being destroyed right in front of his eyes. Mariko is the granddaughter of Yashida and is played by Tao Okamoto, and is the central plot of the story, where she is subject to inheriting the wealth and power from her grandfather. I would say that Mariko and Logan's little romance that they have together, again, I'm not fully invested in, although I would say it is better than the romance with Jean in the first X-Men trilogy. The plot doesn't avert massively towards it, so it's not that big of a deal ultimately. Legend of Japanese cinema Hiroyuki Sanada plays Shingen, the son of Yashida, and due to not inheriting the company from his father, he then thinks it's perfectly reasonable in hiring the Yakuza to kidnap his own daughter. Perfectly reasonable fathering. I've loved Hiroyuki Sanada in everything that I've seen him in, and he plays this character tremendously, holding that commanding but well-respected stance amongst others, and of course his action scenes that he's involved in are amazing. I think I remember maybe one instance where a scene has all Japanese actors, and some of them start speaking English to each other, and it doesn't seem that necessary, to be honest. It's almost like the movie just wants to appease to the English-speaking audience, but is it just me in one wanting the movie just to seem a little bit more natural with the actors speaking their native language, as it is set in Japan after all. I think another movie where it reminded me of the main characters speaking in their native accent but not necessarily the language was Black Widow, when there's a scene full of Russian people but they're just speaking English to each other, and some of them in pretty terrible accents, mind you. I was about to say Poison Ivy, but Viper is played by Svetlana Kojinkova, who, I'm gonna be completely honest, I did not care for this character at all. I'm sure she is a good actor, but I feel as though Viper came across as a little bit over the top, especially in her scene with Harada. The fight scenes in this are really good, with one of the standouts being on top of the bullet train between Logan and the Yakuza. It's an incredibly exhilarating sequence and you really do feel the immense speed. And my personal favourite involves Logan trying to operate on himself whilst being protected by Yukio, and after having that scene where Yukio is describing Logan's death, it really keeps you on the edge of your seat. All the fight scenes are very well choreographed, and I especially love the framing and lighting used in the fight scene between Xingyang and Logan. It's an incredibly gorgeous scene, and it also keeps the violence looking very brutal. Another incredible shot is the abundance of arrows being lodged into Logan's back on his charge to save Mariko. And unfortunately, after having such a peak in this movie, it is followed by the ending. For me, it goes way too over the top, and the decision to have this hulking armor of the Silver Samurai be the final conflict, it feels really out of place. It's almost as if someone behind the scenes just wanted to inject this big action set piece because it seems to be the trend with all the other superhero movies lately. I really like the idea of using the Silver Samurai as the antagonist for this movie, but the execution here falls completely flat. Now, it does give us the idea that Logan has had the adamantium stripped from his body, but that doesn't seem to be the case, since we see in the post-credit scenes Magneto still has the ability to halt his entire body. So does the adamantium just heal back onto his bones, or does he get kidnapped and forcibly injected with a shit ton of adamantium again? I'm not quite sure, it doesn't really explain that. So the budget of this movie was $120 million, and at the box office worldwide it grossed just under $415 million. A pretty solid return, and obviously gives them the go-ahead to complete the trilogy in having Logan be the next movie, a personal favourite of mine. And just like with all the other opinion videos that I've done, let's give a look at the trailer to see if it's any good.
Ask me.
Where did you find it?
Well, funny you should ask.
That was a pretty decent one. It perfectly sets up what the story's going to be about and gets you excited without giving too much away in the process. And that's all you can really ask for in a teaser trailer. And just like this trailer also shows, and I've mentioned, it is a really good looking movie, and I would recommend anyone to watch it. And that's about it. Thank you everybody so much for watching another Uneducated Opinion video. If you'd like to give it a like, comment down below what you thought of the movie, what was your positives and what was your negatives about it. Give me constructive feedback of what I could do better for next time. Share around with your friends and family if you think they'd enjoy this sort of content. Subscribe, ding the notification bell. If you want to see more of me, I'm on twitch.tv/Rizikins. There I'm going through all of the Souls games, currently on Dark Souls 2, and I occasionally play with my girlfriend Jem and my good friend Sir Razzie, and we hope to see you there. Thank you everybody again for watching, and take care.